Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Something to Wrestle with John Layfield. John, what's going on, man? How are you?
How long am I still going to get that question mark? I mean, I don't know if Brother Love's ever coming back.
Man, who are you telling? I don't know that anybody is after what we saw over the weekend. Everybody is talking about WrestleMania, and so shall we be. John, I see you're back home. How was your trip to Las Vegas?
Fantastic. I literally just got back into the house and just got back down here, and I've got some great stuff that I brought in from
oh my God.
Oh, hell yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got the new APA hats. We used to have bigger heads back in the day. This actually fit our head back in 1998. Me and Ron both have shrunk. We're like
my goodness. That what a lid that is. You going to put a Layfield lure on the bill there? I mean, why not?
Hey, are you kidding me? It's like a yard sale around here. I got all kinds of shit. I don't sell any of it, but I got like all kinds of like yard sale stuff.
Well, if we want something sold, we could get it in front of WWE because they sold everything else this weekend. My goodness, you talk about monetization. I think WWE reached total utilization when it comes to monetization. I saw things I'd never seen sold before in wrestling, like every freaking turnbuckle. I mean, listen, as a capitalist, as an entrepreneur, as a sales guy, I was really impressed. It feels like WWE found a way to squeeze every nickel out of WrestleMania weekend. You know, what was your experience that you saw? It felt like this was, as far as the record books go, a record-breaking WrestleMania in a lot of ways. What was your takeaway?
There are many. I mean, many. It was unbelievable being out there and just kind of being an observer and not being in it and just kind of watching it. There's, if you go to the Super Bowl, and I've been blessed to go to a couple Super Bowls, and they don't have like 8 other football games that people go to. They don't have Fan Fest, or at least like what I see out there. They didn't. When I went to them, it was, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. It's the last ones I went to was when Brady did not get the undefeated season against Eli Manning. So whatever the years that was, but there wasn't 10 football games. I went and worked for Fourth Rope, West Side Gun, who love those guys. They treat guys fantastic. I really hope that they make it, and I think they will. But I went in the ring at about 2:15 in the morning.
Wow.
In the morning.
Wow.
There was 1,000 people there, they said, at 2:15 in the morning. And that was the 4th show that they had. I think what happened was Brett Lauderdale got the arena, then sublet it out. But they started, I think that's what happened, because Brett was there. Brett, wonderful guy, that runs GCW, does a fantastic job. Terrific guy. He does too much, but God bless him, he gets it done. But they had a Japanese wrestling women's show in the morning. Then they end up having GCW right before us. In between them was a different wrestling show, and then our show was supposed to start at midnight. Ended up starting about 1. But we were at 2-something in the morning. Godfather was still going out with the Ho Train later. He was there, and it's still before intermission, and there were 1,000 people there. I don't know. I don't understand it. I mean, God bless everybody. Wrestling is so freaking big right now. It's inexplicable to tell somebody that's outside of the world how big it is.
It was an incredibly huge weekend, and there was something going on during the middle of the night, seemingly every night. Last night we had the WWE roast. Friday night we had the Hall of Fame, which started in the middle of the morning here on the East Coast. And I think, at least here in Central Time Zone, it was around 3:45 in the morning when Triple H wrapped up. And I know that, seemingly they were getting shots of a lot of people who were in the crowd who were maybe falling asleep. Even Eric Bischoff said maybe a little. And I saw Booker T joking that
Booker T. Wait a minute. Booker T is a good friend of mine. He's very religious, and it's Easter weekend. Okay, so enough said. Booker T's, him and the guy upstairs are close.
I get it. Jesus is my homeboy too. What an incredible weekend. But what everybody's talking about is the fallout from WrestleMania, and we want to know from you guys, what'd you think? And we're going to be breaking it down here, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with night 1. John, we got started with Jey Uso becoming the new world champion. He bested Gunther, and I wasn't surprised that Jey won. I was surprised that it happened by tap out. I've heard Tony Schiavone before say that he feels like the War Games match that was made famous by Dusty Rhodes and the NWA and later WCW, he felt like it was a missed opportunity to eliminate or rather focus on the submission because he thinks it maybe hurts the anticipation a little bit. And that didn't really make sense for me, but I think I got it watching Jey Uso win. I think that crowd was ready for Jey to win, and the anticipation of 1, 2, that builds. So we're all sort of ready for either the kick out or when this hand hits, man, we got a new champion. You don't really get that anticipation with the tap out. Would the pop and reaction have been bigger if it was a pinfall rather than a submission? What say you?
Maybe, but it may not be what's best for business down the road. You know, if what the crowd is telling you that, hey, we're going to pop more off a pinfall and submission, maybe you should give it to them, but maybe you shouldn't let them lead you. You know, that's an alternative to it. And I don't know what the correct answer is. So I'm not saying one is the correct answer and one is not. But sometimes you do things like this because you want to open up the fact that people are going into a sleeper forever. And the crowd kind of pops, but then they kind of expect to go, oh, you're going to cheer and you're going to bring them back and go into something else. Well, now all of a sudden it works. And I think that changes the dynamic. And it adds something to the repertoire of Jey Uso. I think long-term it could be good. I think we'll find out. I mean, I don't think it'll be definitive, but I think we'll know down the line if they do something with it, because now you have something viable that is an alternative to just the 1-2 kick out, 1-2 kick out, finally 1-2-3 yay.
It's interesting to see what they're going to do next, at least to me, because I've seen some people who were critical of this match even before it happened. People have decided, hey, all of a sudden we don't like Jey Uso. I don't really understand that. The crowd was really with it. But I guess the next question is, if you were booking, would you go right back to rematches with Gunther and Jey Uso, or is it time for both guys to move on? And if that's the answer, what might that look like if it were up to you?
I'd separate them. I definitely would separate them, at least for the time being. You always can come back to it. That's a hot angle that will be there. I say always. It's going to be there for the foreseeable future, which is a year to 2 years down the road. So I think I would separate them here and let Jey Uso kind of go on his own and let him yeet and all this stuff. You know, it's the dog that caught the car. You know, the fans, they tell you, we want this guy, we want this guy, we want this guy. And all of a sudden they get him and they're like, nah, we don't want him. You know, and so I get it. You see that a lot. And sometimes it buries a guy when they finally get over the hump, get to the hump and cross it over, and they get what the fans claim they want. And they change their mind. They don't want it. I think Jay's going to be fine. That kid is unbelievably talented, and he is that good. I've seen them since they first came in. I can't tell you what a big fan I am of him and his brother. I think he's going to be just as fantastic going forward as he has been for the past year.
Let's talk a little bit about the New Day. They were out next, and they are the tag team champions again, besting the War Raiders. I, for one, am a big fan of seeing New Day win the titles as a heel tag team. And maybe it's wishful thinking, but I sure do hope at some point during this reign we see a little bit of involvement one way or another from Big E. What do you think of this match, and what do you think about the prospects of a heel New Day tag team run?
I got to work with them when I went back for the one little shot there with backstage with them. I've worked with those guys ever since they've come in, and they're fantastic. It is so good to be out there with guys that are such professionals. Not that you have to worry about what they're going to do, that you actually have to worry that you're good enough to keep up with them, because they're literally that good. The stuff they've done, you know, they came in and they didn't get over, and they didn't get over because they were done wrong. I say done wrong. They were given the wrong everything. Promos, they're, you know, you understand the old Southern evangelist, and that's how you write a lot of promos that were like this, like Dr. King talked about, like Billy Graham talked about. You know, everything would lead to one thing or another. And, you know, the river overflows the banks flows into the city, you know, that's righteousness. It goes over, you know, it's always a lead and a progression. They weren't writing that. They were writing just certain phrases, but they were very disjointed. And they finally let New Day do their own stuff. And when they did, those guys got over because they're talented. But what you had a bunch of writers who, no fault of their own, could not write for them. And now that you've got these guys, either writers that understand them that work with them. They're writing their own stuff. I know at one point at that time, because when I was there, they were writing a lot of their stuff in coordination. They got together with the writers, and it really made a complete difference. And so I've seen them get over, and I love them, those guys as heels. I think Big E coming back is going to be huge when he does, and I'm sure he will. I say not come back and wrestle, but come back and be part of the storyline.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think he necessarily has to have, bell-to-bell matches, but just his mere involvement in a match could be big. And, conventional wisdom does say that's going to happen.
Those guys are chicken shit heels. They are the definition of guys you just hate. It's so refreshing to see guys like that. There's nothing about them that's redeemable. You hate everything about them. I love to have guys like that on the roster, especially ones that are talented as those guys.
How great was it, too, that when they won, they just ran right up the ramp? I mean, just hightail it out of Dodge. It's old school. I love it. And I have to admit, I'm going to follow my sword here. In my mind, Jade Cargill and Naomi would be the popcorn match. This would be a great time to make a sandwich. I mean, I was not high on this going in. I was wrong. These ladies exceeded expectations, and I thought it was one of the best matches of the night. I don't know why I didn't have higher hopes for it. I just did not. But, man, I was proven wrong. I was thoroughly impressed and saw some things in this match I'd never seen before. What did you think of these two ladies? I thought they tore it up, John.
I thought they absolutely tore it up. And I've kind of come to a realization after watching WrestleMania about how the business has transformed as compared to how it was during our day. It's kind of become more crystallized in my mind about how they use agents so much more. And it's different. It's not that one is working and one is not working. It's Ricky Steamboat and Savage having number system for their matches back 40 years ago. They did it too. And it was a great match. It doesn't matter how you get there. What matters is what you deliver. And they absolutely delivered. And a lot of matches delivered. Now, I'm not picking on that match alone, but the agents work so well with these great talent, and they're so athletic. Those two ladies are incredible athletes. We haven't seen anything like that maybe ever with those two guys. But when you get these agents together and the WWE machine, you're putting together these matches that are just absolutely fantastic. And, some of the old guys will say, well, that's not working. Look, Savage and Steamboat did the same thing. They numbered it. They actually had numbers. It doesn't matter. All that matters is, does the crowd love it? And the crowd loved that. And I agree with you. I thought it stole the show.
Man, I won't make that mistake again. I underestimated them. Let's talk about the next match. We've got Jacob Fatu. He got a win over LA Knight. He's the new U.S. champion. This is the same trajectory we saw John Cena once upon a time. Of course, he famously beat Big Show at WrestleMania for the U.S. title. And then the next year, he was working with you for the world title. Do you expect a similar trajectory for Jacob Fatu? I mean, what is his ceiling? What is his peak, do you think?
Yeah, I just hope it's not the same trajectory where he's working with me, because he might hurt me.
That's a fair statement. I guess everybody now wants to wonder, though, what's next for LA Knight? A couple of years ago, I could have seen if he's losing the U.S. title, oh, maybe they're getting ready for the world title. Do you think that's still in the cards, or will LA Knight's career take a different turn next?
I think there's going to be a lot of places he can go here. I think he's going to get the keys to the car, and I think it's going to be up to him. And he's done a very good job, and I think he'll do well going forward. Some of the stuff he did where he hops on the top rope, I mean, and I'm not saying this in a bad way. I'm saying it in a very good way. He's in his early 40s. Is that right?
Yes.
I mean, when I was in my early 40s, they acted like you were 70. It was like, oh my God, he's old. These guys now, because they take care of themselves so well, 40 doesn't matter anymore. That age doesn't matter anymore. I think he's a fantastic athlete, and I think he'll be just fine. I think he's going to get the keys to the car, and they're going to have options of where he can go, and I think he's going to excel like he's done everywhere else. Jacob Fatu, to me, is the guy that they want to send to the moon. And I have a feeling he's going to be up there with Buzz Aldrin, because that son of a bitch is good. He good, as Booker would say. When Booker is awake, now when Booker's asleep, he doesn't say anything because he's asleep.
Well, no. When Booker's praying, he doesn't. That's right. Pray out.
It is Easter weekend.
Hey, we're talking a little bit about Jacob Fatu. Of course, he was a big part of the Bloodline story there at the end. But I think a lot of people were sort of reeling in the idea that the bloodline story seems to be put to bed. I mean, we've even heard Michael Cole sort of say that, hey, everyone's sort of gone their own way. Of course, that does give the opportunity for there to be reunions and continuations of that storyline down the road. But I can't help but see what's happening with Jacob Fatu and wonder, if he wasn't here, would that have been Solo's spot? I mean, Solo found himself without even a WrestleMania match. You've been there or in the business and in this company for a long time, where it feels like everything is destined for one person, and then there's some sort of a pivot. I think that's the popular word online.
How great was, Hunter answered the question about the word pivot. Like, we screwed up. We don't want to pivot. I think that was a terrific answer, because people love to say that, oh, we just need to pivot. That means you had the wrong damn thing planned, is what that means.
Well, I'm wondering, what do you think is next for Solo? And do you feel bad? Do you feel like, man, Jacob Fatu is just undeniable, and he swooped in, and maybe that was Solo's spot once upon a time?
It could have been. Absolutely could have been. I mean, you have a guy come in, the Jacob Fatu. I mean, look, you and I have been either wrestling fans or in this business for a very, very long time. You don't have a guy come on like Jacob Fatu very often.
That's right.
He's once in a generation guy that comes along. It's shocking how good he is. And it may have been Solo's spot. I don't know. But all of a sudden, Jacob Fatu comes in, and you're like, we got to make way for this. Doesn't mean that Solo doesn't get his chance, but it means that Jacob Fatu goes to the front of the line, not just in front of Solo, but in front of a lot of people. I mean, because he's that good. He really is that good. I see him, in the main event of WrestleMania. I don't know if next year or the next year, he's going to be there, I think, unless an injury happens or whatever, could possibly happen, but he should be there. He's that freaking good. And the bloodline, to me, you don't want to NWO it, and I'm not taking a shot at the NWO. Greatest storyline probably in the history of wrestling, that or Mr. McMahon. I think one of the two was probably the greatest storyline ever. But then all of a sudden, Virgil's in it, and you overdo it. You don't want to do that with the bloodline. It was too good, and these guys are all still there. And if you want to reform it, I think you can, but you don't want to water it down.
The next match was Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair, and boy, everybody was saying that this was one of the stiffer matches. Speaking of stiff, Blue Chew can get you there. Have I mentioned Blue Chew Max? It's arrived, and it combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. It's a combo that acts fast and it lasts. Guys, you can be ready whenever she needs it, and you can get your first month of Blue Chew free. You see, great sex is just a few clicks away. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part is, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. So make your life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. You can try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use the promo code WRESTLE. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code WRESTLE when you visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. A lot of people were talking about this one in advance of the show. There was lots of rumor and innuendo that these ladies didn't like each other. And, well, man, we fans, we love the idea of saying, I know what wrestling is, but this was real. A lot of people were pointing to this one and saying, oh, did you see the bruises on Stephanie or on Tiffany, and she was bleeding from the mouth, and was that supposed to happen? Well, whatever you want to call it, Tiffany Stratton is your new women's champion. She retains with a big win over Charlotte Flair. Of course, I guess Charlotte had sort of poked the bear in this regard and saying, hey, he didn't really win it. It was a cash in. Well, if there was any question as to whether or not Tiffany was a bona fide WWE superstar, well, beating Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, that'll go a long way. What'd you think of this one, John?
I thought what you said is all true. And I thought when you become a champion, sometimes you got to walk through hell to become a true champion that's more than just somebody that's holding the title. And that's a big difference. The champion that kind of starts to transcend the sport, to transcend the genre. You look at it, Brett and Steve, that match they had, that was about Steve going through hell. And once Steve got through that, it wasn't just about, double turn. It was about showing that Steve could hang with a guy as good as Bret Hart. That's very important. Triple H talking about Mick Foley in the Hall of Fame. That's about the aristocrat Hunter, the blue blood, showing that he can hang with this hardcore legend. You got to have matches like this. I thought the same thing when I had John Cena in the I Quit match. That was the importance of that match. That match was more important than WrestleMania putting the title on him, showing that he could walk through hell. Tiffany had to show that she could walk through hell against a Flair, one of the greatest of all time. And she's, you talk about the Mount Rushmore of women, Charlotte's on everybody's Mount Rushmore, but she walked through hell. And because of that, now she can hold up that title. It completely changed the way people will view her as a champion, because no longer is she the one that cashed in. She's the one that walked through hell with the legend and came out the other side with the title. That was a very important match.
It was a big match to make her and solidify her. And I'm seeing some comments even live here saying that, oh, Tiffany wound up with a chipped tooth. That's not the case. She had blood in her teeth. So that's what you believe made it a chipped tooth. But I saw some people who said, no, she chipped the tooth during the match and it was fixed by the time the post-match press conference happened.
Yeah, because they have a dentist in the back.
I know Kane was in town, but I don't think he was doing dental repair. But there is a wrestling dentist out there, but we'll move on. We should mention the next match is one.
But hey, Conrad, first, people still love blurring the line.
Yes, they do.
People still love it. And I get all this, and I've seen the comments, people are talking about, the kayfabe and non-kayfabe. I don't give a shit about any of that. People still love blurring the line and wanting to know that there could be an element of danger, that there might be some personal animosity. There's always that it doesn't mean you're not discussing stuff. I don't care about none of that. They're drawing enormous crowds. They're doing something right. But people still love the intrigue of, hey, that milk bottle trick by Houdini. He could die, couldn't he? You don't know for sure. And that's cool.
Super fun match. And the main event is what everybody was talking about on night one. I saw people describing the three-way dance with Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman and CM Punk and Roman Reigns as cinema. And I thought it was an interesting lesson. I even suggested when I sort of talked about this with Jeff Jarrett a couple of days ago, it feels like the later in the card or the higher up the card you go, the more you're going to slow down, because they took their time telling this story. And I thought that was what was so fascinating about it is, a lot of times, the modern style of wrestling requires a lot of speed. I mean, it is nonstop, and that is the world we live in. But in the main event, they made every little thing count, including Paul Heyman turning once on we felt like he was turning on Roman Reigns to side with CM Punk. And then we find out, well, that's not the total plan. He left with Seth Rollins. What a finish. I'm hoping that we get some sort of answers tonight on Monday Night Raw. We didn't hear from anybody at the post-WrestleMania press conference. What do you think of this main event? It was a big deal for CM Punk. They let him come out last. They had the appropriate video package. It felt like a major happening. It felt like a major event. And there wasn't even a world title on the line. What do you think of this main event from night one?
Yeah, it reminds me so much of, guys talking about Johnny Valentine or Lou Thez, how Lou Thez would walk through the building, through the box office, so that fans would see him. He'd walk through in a really nice suit and people go, oh my God, that's the world champion. You'd feel that. Johnny Valentine was the same way. There are certain people that would walk in and you just felt like, oh geez, that's the freaking world champion. They walked out in this match like they were the main event of WrestleMania, that like they belong there, and they did. When you're over like that, you can start slower. You can do things that you can't do when you're on the third match, not because you physically can't do it, but because your presence isn't enough. They have so much equity in themselves from 20 years in the business of huge matches that they could walk out and do that. And not many other people could do it. And I thought it was incredibly well done. I thought the whole thing was great. And shout out to Blue Meanie, by the way, who were on last week. And he's the one that first said, what if Paul Heyman goes with Seth Rollins?
Yeah, I think we did a poll, and I think most people could predict and call that it was going to be Seth Rollins. But I think a lot of people assumed that, considering Seth had used the same phrasing that we had heard John Cena and The Rock use, best for business, that may be where it was headed. We'll see where it goes from here. I kind of felt like it was the only logical place for Paul Heyman to go because it's hard for me to imagine him being a babyface mouthpiece. It feels like you want Paul Heyman, and he would almost be miscast as a babyface. You want him to be a heel. And clearly at this point, Roman and CM Punk are darlings in WWE fan bases. So Seth Rollins is the only logical answer in that. Would you have done it differently, or do you think they made the right call?
Nope. I thought we talked about it the past week that Seth Rollins was the right choice. I thought that was the way, though that was 100% the way I would go. I thought it made the most sense. Paul Heyman, I think, is a separate issue. But if you want to put a fresh coat of paint on Paul, which is really hard to do after 30, 40 years in the business of being constantly in main events, all of a sudden now Paul Heyman is just as rejuvenated as ever. Not that he wasn't before. He was. He's always been in main events, always been with one world champion after another. He's got the greatest run of a manager in the history of the world. And he's done it again. And he's on fire again with a new guy that went over two incredible legends. And so I thought it was perfect.
Speaking of legends, we saw some sad news on Friday night. It looks like Rey Mysterio was injured on SmackDown, and he was unable to compete against El Grande Americano. And instead, Rey Fénix stepped up to the plate. And to my surprise, whoever this masked man El Grande Americano is, he picked up the win. And I even saw some speculation, and I don't know this. I don't think his identity has been revealed, but I saw some people suggesting that whoever's under this hood could be potentially doing a Mr. America type gimmick. Like we saw once upon a time, Hulk Hogan paraded around under a hood, but we knew it was Hulk Hogan. Do you think that was Vince McMahon under the hood and he really was at WrestleMania, John?
I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah.
Not at all. I would not put it past him at all. He found a way in, and you knew he would. You knew he would not go quietly into the night. I don't think there's much doubt that could have been and probably was Vince McMahon.
Of course, the big news, in all seriousness, with regard to Lucha Libre was the idea that WWE has acquired AAA. And listen, when you first started showing up south of the border, this was the speculation that you were Hunter's low-key talent scout. And we've seen you in TNA, and then Joe Hendry was at WrestleMania. We've seen you at AAA, and now they're owned by WWE. Where are you headed next? And what can you tell us about your secret undercover work you've been doing for WWE?
Because apparently I'm a double secret agent. I'm so double secret I don't even know about it. So that's how much double secret I am. I'm excited about them with AAA. I think it's great. That Viking Del Hijo, I think that's how you say his name. I watched him have a match down there with the Del Rio. That kid is freaking amazing. They're getting some talent, man. This is unbelievable. And I always thought that WWE should have done this maybe back in the day, where you acquire a territory like Mexico that is completely different, that wants their own culture and wants their own heritage and wants their own history, but wants to be a part also. Not where you WWE it. Where you buy Georgia Championship Wrestling and you turn it into WWE South, but where you buy it and you have a WWE influx into it, but you leave the culture and heritage the same with Lucha Libre. I think it's a fantastic partnership. Dorian has done an incredible job down there. Conan is a terrific booker, and I'm very excited about it. And I've said a couple times that I think Del Rio is the best wrestler in the world. And I know people took me to task on that, but look, I've watched him, and it's my opinion, but that guy draws interest like no one I've seen down there. He's better than he's ever been, and it's really amazing what he's doing down there.
Let's talk about night 2 of WrestleMania. We started off with the 3-way dance for the women's title. Eio Sky retains. She beats Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair in the process. I saw CM Punk in advance of WrestleMania weekend actually advocating that this should have actually been the main event. Rhea's never had a WrestleMania main event. And he said, when will Eio Sky be in this position again? I think at the time, people sort of thought, I can't imagine that being the main event. With the benefit of hindsight, it might have actually been one of the best matches of the night, maybe the best match of the night. The ladies tore it up again, John.
Yeah, if I'm on last, I'm glad they're on first. Yes. Because I don't want them on 6th and me on 7th, because they stole the freaking show. And how big for Eio Sky? I had Rhea winning. I thought they would probably put the title on her, but everything's about her. Terrific. And the match was absolutely blown away fantastic. You got to love stuff like this. And you got to love the future that we're going to get, because we realize what we have. And I don't know. I'm sure WWE knew what they had. Okay. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about we as fans. I'm a fan like everybody else. We have this, and now we got a future that we're like, God Almighty, I want to see this again, because that was that good.
We saw over the weekend fans who work on cagematch.net. I say work on because you have to register in order to be able to vote and rank matches and things like that. On the entire weekend between both nights, the three-way dance from the women on night 2 was the highest rated match amongst fans. And I don't think I would have pegged that ahead of time, but man, they stole it. Shout out to the ladies. 2 nights in a row, I feel like they maybe had the best match of the night.
Yeah, it's just amazing. It's something that the business is so big now, but one of the reasons that you're drawing extra fans is because you have double the roster. But I say double the roster, not just the guys, you have the ladies. Back in the 90s, we had terrifically talented women, beautiful women. They weren't trained to wrestle. Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler were terrific athletes. They could have been great wrestlers. They weren't trained for that. That wasn't what they wanted them for the role. Now you've got the women that are just as many as there are men, as it should be, and it should have been all along. And they're equal in every respect and better. When they're better, they're better. There's no glass ceiling anymore. So when the women excel, it's okay. They beat the guys. Good for them. If the guys win this time, good for them. You actually have given a level playing field. And because of that, I think that's really added to the appeal of wrestling. You see it in MMA. You're seeing it in other sports. We're just behind the curve. The society was behind the curve. And it's catching up, which is a good thing. And you realize how talented these women are, which, we knew all along. They just didn't have the role that was able to show that.
We got to mention the next match on the show was one that, again, I thought, I don't know if fans are really going to be with this, but I thought it delivered. I'm talking about Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. In an alternate universe, this one could have been for the world title that Jey Uso and Gunther were fighting for. We did this as a Sin City street fight. They went 13 minutes and 54 seconds. I thought Damian Priest may have actually needed the win more, but that's not the way they went. Drew McIntyre is the man besting Damian Priest. Were you shocked with the finish? And what do you think is next for both guys here, John?
I wasn't. I thought they'd go with Drew, because you always need this raw bone heel, this badass heel that really wants to be just a tough old guy. And that's what Drew McIntyre is. He really is a tough old guy. He's a big guy, and he plays the character so well. You need a guy like that. You need a menacing, big heel. And I think that's what you got with Drew. So it made perfect sense to me that the finish.
Let's talk a little bit about the 4-way that I think caught everybody off guard. I'm talking about Dominic Mysterio becoming the Intercontinental Champion, beating Braun Breaker, Finn Balor, and Penta in the process. They went 10.5 minutes. Dominic Mysterio was your call going into this. You thought the move was make him the champ and let him be a chicken shit heel and never defend it. I loved it when you laid it out. What I did not anticipate is that he might get the biggest pop of the night. The place exploded for him. And this is a place that not that long ago, anytime he lifted the microphone to his mouth, they just bombed him with boos. That's not what happened this weekend. What'd you think? Were you surprised that he got the big baby face reaction winning the
No, absolutely not. No, fans are just showing their appreciation. Fans, I don't think fans care. It's hard to get real heat. I think Dominic does get real heat. But at some point, the fans are like, man, he has entertained me. He's made me boo him. He has made me get so freaking mad. I love that guy. And that's what I felt it was. I thought it was just an appreciation of everything he's done. I mean, he has been such a good heel. Just one of the best heels I've seen in decades. And throughout this whole thing, I think the fans looked at it and go, man, that was the right choice. We're going to hate him tomorrow, but he's our guy today. And I felt like that's what it was. I feel like they're going to boo him tomorrow. I mean, they may cheer him. It may go for a while where you're cheering. Who cares? I'm with Kevin Nash on this. I think you need just pure heels, which is what I was, but you also need attraction heels, which the NWO was, which the Freebirds were, which the Roman Reigns is. I mean, those guys headline WrestleMania just as much as the pure heels, and the pure heels usually don't stay around that long. I prefer to be a pure heel, but the attraction heel, I'm with Kevin on this one. If they're all feel a certain way about you, whatever that is, they hate you, they love you, but everybody has an opinion, that's pretty good. And I think Dominic may be moving into that role.
It's interesting to see what they're going to do from here. I couldn't help but notice, as we predicted, they did pin Finn Balor. Maybe that has some Judgment Day connective tissue for Dom. Maybe that's what's next. But they were careful not to have Braun Breaker take the pin or the new shiny object in WWE, Penta. A lot of people are suspecting that, just like we talked about Jacob Fatu maybe being in the main events in the years to come, I think they think Braun Breaker may be cut from that same cloth. Would you look for Braun to have some rematches, or is it time for him to go his separate way and move up?
Nope. I would not put Dom back with Dominic or any of those guys. I think they've got higher aspirations. Talking about for the world title picture, for the main event picture. And I think that's where they want. That's why they want to head in that direction. Finn Balor, listen, buddy, you're too good.
Yeah.
That's why they beat you, because they know that you can get beat and it doesn't hurt you. And the other guys they're not in that boat. Finn Balor is that good. He looks great. He's a great worker. And unfortunately, when you're a great worker, you get beat a lot. Triple H had a losing record at WrestleMania because he was such a great worker. Shawn Michaels, Mr. WrestleMania, was not undefeated at WrestleMania because he was such a good worker. People don't remember that because they were such great workers. Same thing with Finn Balor. That's why you beat a guy like Finn Balor, because you know it's not going to hurt him. And as crazy as that sounds, it's because he's that good. And I think you're taking Braun to try to go to a different level with Braun. And I think you're elevating everybody in that match. You're elevating Dominic to a different level. You're elevating Penta, I believe, after this, and Braun. And Finn is to me, was the one guy they knew that was the mechanic that could get it done.
Well, if you're looking for a way to get it done, can I recommend Test X9? Did you know that the average testosterone level in men here in the United States has dropped by 1% every year since 99? That means today's man has significantly less testosterone than previous generations, and it's not just age. Everyday exposure to chemicals in food, grooming products, and even the environment is accelerating this decline. And you can't always avoid these factors, but you can take action to protect your health and performance. And that's where the hot tag to Test X9 comes in. This message is brought to you by Nick Aldis. He is the WWE SmackDown General Manager and, of course, the former world champion. And Test X9 is clinically supported, all-natural testosterone support formula built to help you fight back and perform at your peak. Test X9 combines 9 powerful, clinically studied ingredients shown to naturally stimulate testosterone production while blocking excess estrogen conversion. You'll find no fluff and no gimmicks, just real ingredients backed by science with independent studies for each one available directly on the product page, so you can actually verify the results yourself. But Test X9 goes beyond just testosterone. With magnesium activation technology, it's designed to help improve strength, energy, recovery, and even sleep, giving you more power, sharper focus, and the resilience to take on whatever life throws your way. Nick Aldis knows what it takes to succeed both physically and mentally at the highest level, and Test X9 was built with that same mindset. So whether you're training hard or chasing goals, or you just want to feel like you're at your best self again, Test X9 is the edge that you've been looking for. So don't let the decline continue. Head right now to LegacySupps.com. That's LegacySupps.com, and use the code WRESTLE to get 10% off your order. That's code WRESTLE for 10% off, and you can stop the decline with Test X9. So let's talk about the next match here, because this is one that I know you're going to be interested in. We sort of teased it a moment ago. You've been in and around TNA enough to know Joe Hendry's game. I don't think a lot of people suspected that he would be the person to answer Randy Orton's open challenge. It was Randy's 20th anniversary. I had suggested in a pre-show with Jeff Jarrett, maybe it's going to be Sami Zayn. There was a lot of speculation that, hey, it could be Rusev. And nobody really knew what to expect, but Joe Hendry got the call as the TNA World Champion. Quite a reaction, quite a reception. We see he's sporting the merch. I'm sure that's going to fly off the shelves. But it only took 3 minutes and 10 seconds for Randy Orton to pin him. And I know that wrestling isn't what it once was. And, we've sort of thrown out the old rule book. But the idea that you've got your world champion losing in 3 minutes like this, I don't know. What did you make of this?
Also, but it's Randy Orton also.
That's true.
This isn't a normal person. It's not a normal anything. Randy may be the guy that ends up, breaking Cena's record of 17. He certainly could. Randy looks better now than he's ever looked after 20 years. I was glad it wasn't Nick Aldis, by the way. I think Nick's got an incredible look. I said this last week. Nick looks like a 1932 NWA champion, which I consider a huge compliment. He just looks like an old throwback, of what you think a world champion looks like. And I didn't want to see him come out there with people not knowing how good he can wrestle. I know a lot of his fans know him, but a lot of WWE fans do not, as far as his wrestling background and how good he is. And so I was glad it wasn't Nick, because I'd like, if Nick does come back, I don't have no idea if he is or isn't. I'd like to see him in a different spot and where he can showcase more and not be out there with a guy like Randy, who obviously they got huge plans for Randy, massive plans for Randy. So they're going somewhere with him. That's a bad spot to be in opposite Randy right there, because that's a lot about Randy. I thought Joe did well, and no caveat to it. I thought he did well, and he got his name out there, got all his stuff out here that he does that goes viral, and was a good little spot for him.
You said obviously they have big plans for Randy. I mean, I know you're not necessarily heading up creative over there, but would you think that means he may be working with Jey Uso or Jacob Fatu or Dominic Mysterio, or what is Randy going to do next from here, do you think?
You're in a bind with Randy because he's that good. You've got to put him, in my opinion, almost in a world title picture. It's hard to put him in anything else. He's that good, and he looks so freaking good. I mean, Randy has transformed himself from just a few years ago into this incredible presence. He's got his body so freaking big. He looks so freaking good. He's a huge man. I mean, Randy's what a world champion looks like. I say it all the time. Build a sports entertainer from the ground up, it looks like Randy Orton. That is exactly what it looks like. So there's not much you can do with him except put him in main event pictures, but that's a good thing, because he's going to draw. And I don't know where you go with it. I don't know if you go with him and Cena, which would be great. End up somehow that direction. I don't know if you end up with him and Jey Uso, which I think could be absolutely fantastic. But either one of those, to me, it would be great. Jacob Fatu would be good. I think something with Dominic. But the problem is Dominic would have to be a heel to get out of it. It'd be kind of a tough match. But there's quite a few options with Randy.
Randy Orton and John Cena. It's got to happen one last time.
It has to. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Something that some of us are still trying to make heads or tails of is Logan Paul and AJ Styles. They went 17 minutes and 43 seconds. They're incredible athletes. They had an interesting story. We saw Logan Paul's manager, Jeff, get involved again, seemingly trying to use the brass knucks. Here comes Karrion Kross after getting a big reaction on the SmackDown show during the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I liked that this maybe gave us the quote-unquote worked shoot promo that we heard from Karrion Kross after the show. Blurring the lines like that and having sort of a pipe bomb moment like that, I think is exactly what Karrion Kross needed. But I don't know that this is what I wanted for AJ Styles' last WrestleMania, but maybe that's part of the story, that, that is going to be a big part of what Karrion and AJ are doing on the other side. When it was happening, I didn't like it. Now that I've seen the promo from Karrion Kross, I'm back in. What say you?
Was this AJ's last WrestleMania?
Well, that's the hint that Karrion has been saying. Hey, if that was your last WrestleMania, is that the way you wanted it to finish?
Right.
I knew it wasn't the right thing, but sometimes you have to do the wrong thing in order to make things right. I thought, wow, I really like giving Karrion this opportunity. I wish it would have happened on TV, But still, I hope that this leads to a summer with Karrion Kross and AJ Styles doing something. Sign me up for that. I don't know that I would have been on board with it without that promo, though. And now having seen it, well, I'm back in. What'd you think of Logan Paul besting AJ here?
I thought that would happen. I really did. Logan Paul, I mean, look, you can say whatever you want about social media presence and Travis Scott and these guys that come in, but I mean, there's a reason that Logan and Jake Paul are going to make tens of millions of dollars off their YouTube channel by doing stuff athletically. For one, they're incredible athletes. I'm talking about both of them. Logan is an incredible athlete, but their presence is they draw. I mean, they just draw. And so when you got a guy like that, you say, do they deserve to be there? Hell yeah, they deserve to be there. If you got guys that draw better than them, they won't be there. And so, yes, I think they deserve to be there. And I think he does an incredible job. He's the best wrestler I've ever seen that has wrestled as few times as he's wrestled. He is such a good athlete. Now he's out there with a world-class guy in AJ Styles. AJ Styles could make anybody look good. But Logan Paul does his part. And I thought that was probably the way to go was with Logan Paul. You're going to do something big with him in the future. I don't know what that is, but there's going to be something that's going to be huge with Logan Paul in the future because of what he does outside of just wrestling. He is a huge name. And in my opinion, WWE is very lucky to have him.
We got to talk about the women's tag match. We saw an angle develop where it looked like Bayley was going to be injured and unable to compete. As I understand it, the general manager said that, she had 24 hours, Lyra did, to find a suitable tag team partner. Well, she found one. Becky Lynch is back, and Big Time Bex is now one half of the tag team champions with Lyra. She's been out of WWE for over a year now. But she's back now and immediately back in the title situation. Of course, it's two-belt Lyra, I guess, as the Intercontinental Champion and the tag champ. I like Becky working in a tag capacity here. And what a big return. What a big surprise. But if I'm honest, I hate it for Bayley because I don't think Bayley is injured. And it's just one of those things, maybe like the Solo Jacob thing. Hey, we had plans, but this presented itself and we're going to go that direction. What'd you think of Becky's return and what's next for Bayley in all this?
Bayley is one of those people, and we talk about these with a lot of different people. We talk about this with AJ Styles. We talk about this with Finn Balor. Dolph Ziggler we've talked about before was in the same boat. Bayley is so talented that she can do so much that she doesn't get hurt by a lot of this. And sometimes when that happens, it's almost this, I don't know, take advantage of, but you step aside because you know that you're going to be fine going down the road. Not that Becky Lynch isn't as well. But that's kind of, but when you're that good like Bayley and you have such a presence, it's almost very repetitive when you have these great stars that can end up happening to them at times. I think Bayley's going to be fine. She's incredibly talented. She is just fantastic. Everything she's done, when she was Hugga Bayley to when she was Heel Bayley, everything she's done has been great. And Becky Lynch is the same. I think it was a terrific return. And I thought with Bayley, she's going to be perfectly fine.
I for one, am excited that Becky Lynch is back, but I think we both agree that the best gear of the weekend was Liv Morgan. Do you think you could have pulled off the Liv Morgan gear at the peak of your career, John?
Not at any moment at all. No moment whatsoever. I remember when Jordan Grace and some other of the divas were down in Cabo or something, and did some shoot from behind on a pool. And I said, why didn't the APA and the Dudleys do that? And probably because we'd been arrested and people would have shot us.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people wanted to shoot the TV when they saw the final curtain fall on night 2. People were not happy with John Cena beating Cody Rhodes to win the world title. I don't think it's necessarily the idea that John won the world title. It's maybe how it happened. I, for one, thought they did a pretty good job with this story. I know that, we've both been critical of the build at first, but I think they got there by the end. I loved Cody's go home promo on SmackDown. I loved when they didn't do the bright, colorful entrance for John Cena, just all black and white letters. That was fantastic. They still got the merch plug. The camera followed him down from behind as he plugged the towel, and certainly he was dripping in John Cena gear, just not the neon Fruity Pebble stuff, all black like a bad guy should. And I thought he and Cody had a fine match. And then after the second ref bump, or maybe the first ref bump, we saw Travis Scott make his way to the ring. And it took for freaking ever. And I felt like it took more than a suspension of disbelief to imagine that Cody and John Cena just sat there. I think Travis maybe put them in a bad spot. And it feels like fans online, even though they understand that, hey, Travis has more Instagram followers than WWE. I mean, Travis had a doggone meal at McDonald's. He had like 11 billion streams on Spotify last year. There's no doubt this is an accomplished guy with a huge social media following. But I think wrestling fans would have liked for there to have been a larger emphasis on the historical significance of this being John Cena's last WrestleMania, him beating Ric Flair's record. Now he's a 17-time world champion. And I think a lot of people feel disappointed that The Rock wasn't there. It feels like this whole story revolved around The Rock, and he wasn't there. Fans are rightfully upset, I think. I've heard reports that there was booing nonstop, even after the cameras stopped. And fans even sort of waited around thinking, well, is something else going to happen? They were really expecting The Rock to be there. What'd you think of the main event and Travis Scott's involvement and maybe The Rock's lack of involvement?
I think they all need to call a wambulance. Dial 911 is what they need to do. Look, Skandar Akbar used to always tell me we'd leave a spot show and people were mad and wanting to riot, and wanting to kill us for leaving the Von Erich boys down or whatever we did. We left them just like they love to be left. They're miserable. And sometimes that's what you do. If you're booking it like the fans want to book it, you're going to have a feel-good moment. Now, I'm not taking shots at the fans. I'm just telling you what my perspective of the business. And you're going to book this hot shot moment. You're going to have The Rock come down. You're going to have the glass break. You're going to have all this stuff happen. Everybody's going to go, oh, man. And all of a sudden, Cena's going to get that 17-time world champion. Everybody's going to stand up and cheer. And you're going, all right, man, that's fantastic. That's not episodic. That's a culmination. That's a final is what that is. That's a finale. It's tough to follow that. Instead, you do something where fans are pissed off. That's the wrestling business. And now they're going to – I had a fan tell me one time, Killer Tim Brooks can't wrestle at all. I hate that guy. I said, would you pay to see Stan Hansen come in to wrestle him? And he goes, oh, my God, I'd pay double. I go, you're right. He can't work at all.
Yes.
That's, to me, how you leave the fans. And that's a hard thing to do. But that, in my opinion, is how they were trying to leave them. And I thought they did. And now if you want to bring The Rock in, now if you want to put the bells and whistles, now it becomes different. You want to make Cena into a heel, not this celebrated 17-time world champion that's the greatest of all time and all the accolades that should go with him. You don't want that. You want people mad that this guy won. And that's what happened. So I thought that I thought the finish was actually pretty good.
John Cena had a little fun afterwards at the post-match presser saying that all the questions were for clickbait and in bad faith and they needed to do better and it was sloppy, lazy journalism. I thought it was fun. He says he's here to ruin wrestling and tune in tonight to Monday Night Raw to hear how he's going to ruin wrestling. And I can only imagine that means that you're going to be back full-time working every match against the Luchadors. I mean, what is the plan to ruin wrestling, John?
I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome that Cena not only doesn't get out of character at all, he goes further. He doubles down on everything. Right when you think, okay, he's going to show a little bit and pull the curtain back, he doubles down. He is a smart, brilliant. I love John. You knew back then that this guy was something special. You had no idea he was this special, but he's doing an unbelievable job. I think you're going to draw incredible crowds. Not that you aren't now, to watch him, somebody try to take that title off him. Because I think people are going to get that fed up with him, which is incredible that you've had this great babyface run that people thought would never end. And now he's this great heel. This is something historic.
It's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. What's next for Cody and what's next for John Cena and maybe what's next for The Rock. I've seen a lot of criticism thrown around that, hey, if The Rock wants to be back. But if he can't finish the storyline, and that's the thing, I don't think it's finished. I don't think it's finished until the end of the year. As long as they bring The Rock around at some point and we do get his involvement in the John Cena storyline before he retires, that's all this requires at this point, right? It didn't have to happen on Sunday night.
No, of course not. Look, if fans booked The Walking Dead, they kill the governor in the first episode.
Wow.
He doesn't last 2 seasons because you want him dead. You go, hey man, I'd rather just have him dead. I don't want that guy around for 2 seasons. Yeah, you had one of the biggest drawing shows of all time because that guy. You wanted him dead. You wanted him dead in a magnificent way, just like the Battle of the Bastards, Game of Thrones. You want him dead in a magnificent way. You don't show up when the fans want you to. You show up when you lead the fans, not them lead you. And, sometimes it's done right. Sometimes it's done wrong, but that's the way it works best. It always has. And I think that's what they're doing right now. Right or wrong, I think that's what they're doing.
John Cena was on the Pat McAfee show this morning, and he says, I'm going to make wrestling start over. That championship is coming home with me. I will be the last undisputed WWE champion, period. So they're going to have to make a new title. Bruno, Hogan, Austin, Rock, HBK, Taker, Game, every name you can imagine, CM Punk, that comes home with me because that's what I've earned, and that's what I want to do. I want to write history, and I'm going to put my stamp on the business by taking that piece of business home with me. We all talk about this new era, and we talk about how the business is changing. Well, I'm taking the last piece of tradition and the business home with me, and you guys can figure out how to settle the dust when I'm gone, period. Now, that could be interesting. Taking the belt home, I don't think a lot of people imagined that that's where this is going. We know that he's got a lot of Hollywood obligations, but sign me up for being really curious about John Cena's promo tonight.
Yeah, and that's why, Conrad, when we talk about what happened last night, well, I think it's fine. I don't know what they have planned, but they have something planned. I mean, you've got some incredibly smart guys here. You got Triple H, who's I think is doing a wonderful job, and John Cena, who I think just as brilliant. You've got and Bruce Pritchard up there. You've got some guys that are really smart guys figuring out the angle of the last several decades. I mean, this is something that you can't replicate this. You can't replicate a career of a 16-time world champion winning his 17th world championship, and for the first time since he won that first championship, turning heel. You can't replicate that. You can't build that over a 6-month period. You can't build that out of people coming into NXT and saying, okay, we're gonna make this guy into that. That happens, and when it happens, it's something that's once in a generation or more. I think this is going to be an incredible run for WWE. There's not arenas big enough to hold the crowds that they could have for the matches that's going to come up with John Cena.
Of course, we knew it was a joke and it was tongue in cheek, but it made me laugh. Did you see where people were saying online, Tony Khan has the potential to do the funniest thing ever? And they posted a Photoshop picture of Ric Flair wearing the AEW title. I don't know why, but it made me laugh out loud. The idea that, oh yeah, we'll show you.
I didn't see that. That's wonderful. That's actually fantastic. That's really good.
It's almost as good as Magixpoon. You've heard me bragging about their high protein treats for a while now. You've already fallen in love with their cereal because they're nostalgically delicious. It tastes just like the cereal you grew up on, except without all the sugar and with a ton of protein. But now they've got the brand new high protein granola. And true to the Magixpoon promise, it's packed with protein and so crunchy. Those treats we've been bragging about, they're like marshmallow, chocolatey peanut butter, and dark chocolate. Dark chocolate's a good one, but double chocolate is my favorite. I highly recommend it because they're crispy, crunchy, airy, and an easy way to get 12 grams of protein on the go. But Magixpoon's brand new granola packs in 13 grams of protein, and they have 0 added sugars with delicious flavors like dark chocolate almond, honey almond, and peanut butter. And right now you can get $5 off your next order at magixpoon.com/wrestle, or just look for Magixpoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. That's magixpoon.com/wrestle for $5 off. Hey, so let's hit some questions. We want to give a shout out to Efren, who's a part of our live studio audience here. And he says, sorry for the delay, but I heard great things about you treating ad-free shows members extra well at WrestleCon. Kudos. How was your WrestleCon experience, John? Did you have fun?
We had a great time. I mean, absolutely great time. I was right by Rick and Scott Steiner, right by the Hardy Boys, who, by the way, if you guys never seen the Hardy Boys at a WrestleCon, you got to see these guys draw crowds that you wouldn't believe. And they are so wonderful with the fans. They'll stay there and sign every autograph. It doesn't matter if they're 2 hours past the signing time. They are unbelievably popular. And on the other side was JR and King, and then you had Ted DiBiase and Hacksaw and Mike Rotunda all up in our room. It was awesome. I got a great picture that I put out with there it is with Don Fry and the Godfather. Don came by to say hi. He told me a great story about it. He got out to change do a gate at his ranch, I guess, and the car shifted into neutral, ran over him. it's like it happened this week. It's like a country song. But you got to hear Don tell the stories. He's a hilarious guy. I love Don Fry. But it's so fun to be around those things. It's so fun to see fans that it's unbelievable because there's moments in time. For me, I had 3,500 plus matches or whatever it was, but like when I saw something else, that's my moment in time. For a fan, that's their moment in time when they saw me against Eddie or when they saw me against against Undertaker or somebody else. And it's cool to hear their perspective. It's cool to hear the thoughts they had as they were watching it.
I want to know what your thoughts were when you saw Sting rolling around with a new look. Not only the big beard, but he was rocking tomato face Sting on Saturday. What a look this was. What'd you make of Stinger with the gray hair, the long beard, and two-tone at that?
He came by and said hi to me and Ron as he's walking back for one of his private sessions. And Sting has always been just fantastic to me. He lives in Waxahachie, Texas, which is near where my mom lives. And I love talking to Sting. He's such a pleasant guy. And by the way, Luger was there. I didn't mean to leave out the Hall of Famer. He was right beside us, and Sting came through with that look, and it's a cool look. It's got like the old Mad Max. Something's happened. It's a real cool look for Sting.
I was super thrilled to see Lex Luger take his rightful place with the WWE Hall of Fame. Did you stay up until 4 a.m. to finish that thing? Have you seen the Hall of Fame? What'd you think?
I have not. I was clotheslining somebody that night about the same time, about 2:15 in the morning. So and then I went to bed because I was about to die.
I think the people who put together the WrestleMania staging this weekend may have been about to die. What an incredible set. It's always overwhelming when you take a look at that set. And we heard through the grapevine this past Friday, as Eric Bischoff and I were doing a preview of the WrestleMania card. I guess according to the locals, that was not the original set design. Fountain Blue heard about this, I guess perhaps when they got in contact with WWE to set up the roast and set up the Hall of Fame. And as we understand it, Fountain Blue actually wrote a check to have them recreate the Fountain Blue as a part of the set design. Man, these guys are crazy like a fox. Shout out to WWE to get paid to make a set.
Right.
Let's get it all out here, John.
They're getting site fees now. I mean, it's a complete different world. It is. I don't know of any other sport or entertainment that can do something like WWE did this weekend.
Yeah.
You have 10 different wrestling shows there, and not just, I'm talking about not WWE. You have 2 WWE shows in arenas. You have 2 in, stadiums, 2 in arenas, another in an arena. And then you have all these ancillary shows and all this extra stuff going on. It is shocking how WWE takes over an entire city with WrestleMania. And by the way, for Lex Luger, it's long overdue. He should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. He's incredibly deserving and very happy for him.
No doubt about it. We're big fans of Lex Luger here on the program. We're talking about the size and scale of WrestleMania. Well, the reports came out last week that the economic impact, which is the sort of thing that they use to sort of parade around and say, see, here's why we can justify giving WWE all the billboards and all the convention centers and the stadium and $5 million just to show up in Las Vegas. $215 million in economic impact for the Las Vegas area. Over 180,000 fans that it brought to town. It's unbelievable.
Conrad, I took the monorail from we were staying at Westgate where the WrestleCon was, and I took it to MGM just because I wanted to get something to eat and just kind of see the Vegas a little bit. Everywhere I stopped, it was nothing but wrestling fans. They've got their title belts with them. They got their WWE shirts on. They got their WWE hats on. It is shocking. Every single place you went were WWE fans. It is what I came into in the WWE in 95 to now. It's hard to believe what it has become. I'd love to see them done. I'd love to see it done in Tokyo. I'd love to see it done, in Berlin or Adelaide or Sydney or somewhere. I'd love to see WrestleMania done overseas, because I think it'd be even bigger.
I got to tell you, one of my favorite things over the weekend, and I know I'm an asshole, but it made me laugh. WWE announced on night one that they had a complete sellout, 61,467 fans. And then, of course, they went out and announced on Sunday night that they had 63,000 fans. I don't know how it was sold out with a couple thousand more people, but they figured it out. And it's 124,693 fans between both days. It was a major opportunity for WWE, a home run for WWE, a home run for Las Vegas. But when you announce the first night that it's sold out, and you announce on the second night that there's magically another 2,000 seats, it tickled me to no end.
It's wrestling. It's always wrestling. It always will be. They're putting a massive amount of people in the stands, but it's always sold out. It's always in a record. It's crazy. You would love to see the actual numbers, because you don't know. it's wrestling, and not only wrestling, it's entertainment.
Yes,
everybody does it. It's not just, you can't blame WWE for this. I mean, this is something that Roy Jones Jr. and those guys. There was claims that they manufactured a few people, even though they were selling out. They were counting, I think, maybe some popcorn vendors a few times.
I mean, perhaps even the president of the United States, he's rounded up every now and again about attendance for some of his events.
That's right.
We talked about all the people who were in the crowd, but there's been one super fan that wrestling fans have paid attention to for a long time. Everyone listening to this will know who I'm talking about. The quote unquote green shirt guy. And I saw lots of people posting online all these different conspiracy theories, because on Saturday night, he was seated inside the guardrail near the timekeeper. And then on Sunday, he got to walk down the ramp at WrestleMania with the announcers. And people were wondering, hey, how the hell does this happen? He's got to work for WWE. And I don't know, what's out there and what's not. But the rumor and innuendo is that he paid for the right to do that well into the six figures, John. And man, if that's all it takes, like, I got an idea. We should do that every week. If I ran a wrestling company and you want to pay $100,000 to sit inside the guardrail and come down the aisle, we'll see your ass tonight, right?
Absolutely. They had seats up on the stage.
Yes.
I mean, they're selling everything. There they are. It's unbelievable. I mean, it is shocking how much, it was like Vince considered it the holy grail, the ring and stuff. You're not going to put, stuff like WWE, like UFC does down in the ring, but now it's like, hey man, we're going to print money. and I'm all for that, by the way. I
am too. I mean, it makes me proud as a sales guy and an entrepreneur to see, man, they found a way to make money with every square inch of real estate. And if this were a restaurant, that's what we would be tasked with doing. Yeah. How much revenue can we create in this space? How fast can we turn the tables? That's just what businesses are. But when I saw individual turnbuckles had sponsors, every single match had a sponsor. Like, when all the numbers come out, it's going to be bananas. And maybe that's how they're able to afford making these strategic investments, like with AAA. Of course, given the fact that The Rock was wearing a New Japan t-shirt on his Instagram post several days ago, people are now wondering, hey, we've seen a mass exodus from New Japan, and The Rock's wearing a New Japan shirt. Do you think, John, that perhaps WWE looks at New Japan as their next conquest after AAA?
I don't know if it's New Japan, but I feel like there's more. And I say that from a person that I don't have any inside information here, so I don't want you to take it that I'm getting this from anybody. I'm not. This is my opinion of being in WWE since 1995 and kind of seeing the progression of things. I think they do. I don't know if it's Noah or if it's New Japan. I think they'd love to be able to sell out the Tokyo Dome, once a year, which I think is feasible. They're going to have Triple Mania down in August down in Mexico City. They're going to sell that out 20-something thousand people. I think they'd love to be able to do that with New Japan. I think they're going to do that with probably a company here in the United States. I don't know. Look, you talk about all the money they're making. There's no competition. None. So why wouldn't you try to figure out a way to integrate these other companies into you? Because now you don't have to build more NXTs. Now you don't have to build an NXT down in Mexico to get more luchadors. You own a company down there now. that it's a pipeline to you, but also a place your guys can go as well. It's a mutual beneficial relationship. I think you're going to see it all over the world. I think you're going to see it in Europe. I think you'll see it down in Australia. I think you'll see it for sure in Japan. And I think you'll probably see one here in the United States, that you're going to see these WWE now have partners, either acquisitions or partners that's a little more formal than what they've got. That way they have their own pipeline made for them. They have their own, for lack of a better term, minor league system, because they're not, that's AAA compared to them. I don't care how good they are. I don't care how good these other companies are. It's not WWE. So you've got something to have talent being built without you having to do it yourself.
Speaking of talent, we know that Jeff Cobb has finished up with New Japan. The rumor and innuendo is we're going to see him showing up in WWE anytime now, maybe as soon as tonight. Naito is also going to be leaving New Japan. He's been one of their top heels and top stars for a long, long time. Josh Alexander has officially arrived in AEW. He made his debut in a tournament and lost his very first match to Hangman Adam Page. But this is a guy that you got to see up close in TNA. I felt like he was one of the hidden treasures of wrestling for the last several years, and people who didn't see his title run in TNA really missed out. What do you think of your time with Josh Alexander, and how do you see him fitting in his new home?
I was blown away by Josh. Everything he did. I saw him have some matches out there where guys that he worked with, they had no idea that he was just putting them in holes, putting them in moves. He is a freaking ring general. He is so good at what he does. I wish he'd have gone WWE. I'm biased toward WWE. He's going to be great wherever he is. I think Speedball Bailey, that kid is fantastic. Those two, I thought, to me, were just so diamonds in the rough. They were that good. Josh Alexander, to me, he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. I mean, as far as just being able to put a match together, he can do absolutely anything with anybody. I'm blown away by that guy. I wish he'd gone WWE just because, I'm a little more biased and I would get to see him more because that's what I watch more, because that's where most of my friends are, not AEW, because I don't know as many people down there.
No, I get that. Well, listen, we know that AEW is going to be teaming up with CMLL for Grand Slam in Mexico. And we also know that AAA is now going to be doing a joint show with WWE, the Worlds Collide event. I think it's interesting, the timing of these two. They're both happening in June. Both of the major organizations here in America now have partnerships south of the border. I just think that's great for wrestling, don't you?
Great for wrestling, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, the Latino population in America, I think, is actually undercounted. I think it's higher than what we think. I mean, you look at the economics of it. It makes perfect sense to have some type of lucha presence, because especially in the Southwest United States and South Texas, I mean, it's just, it is Mexico North. Texas used to be part of Mexico. And I think now you've got this incredible desire of people to still have what they have grown up to, their culture and their heritage. And they want to see this. They want to see something that's more toward them. And I think it makes perfect sense. They want to see the WWE, but then when they see the WWE, they actually consider it different, because they consider that more of, that's WWE. They still want to see their wrestling, yes. Which I think that's where you see these partnerships that come into focus.
In 2020, in Los Angeles County, there was a Hispanic population just in Los Angeles County of 4.8 million. So great spot if you're going to run a AAA, USA, WWE joint show. I couldn't draw it up any better than Los Angeles.
I once had a match there that was about 99.9% Hispanic that was rooting for Eddie Guerrero.
Let's talk about the I don't know if there's anything to it or not, but I know that what everyone was talking about in the shadows of WrestleMania Night 2 was the Travis Scott involvement, which we touched on, but also I think it was inevitable. It had to happen eventually. Stone Cold had a mishap with a four-wheeler. And it's funny because as I saw him zipping around the ring, I said to myself, man, I'm glad he drives those professionally, because I would not have, because I know he does that as a hobby on the side, and I guess he's done quite well. But I thought, man, I would not have any confidence that I could actually make those revolutions. And it's about as I'm saying that out loud, bam, he nails the guardrail. We hope no one was injured. But we certainly saw Nick Khan make an impromptu appearance at WrestleMania to go chat with the lady who fell down, I guess. I mean, listen, it's live TV. There's no doubt that nothing was intentional. You hate when you see something like this happens, and you hope no one was hurt. But does that mean that's the end of Stone Cold riding a four-wheeler around the ring? Because that's going to suck.
I hope not. You know, he had one mishap and 1,000 different times that he drove stuff in there. He drove Zambonis. He drove trucks. He's driven everything. He's driven monster trucks over cars. I mean, Steve has a pretty good track record. You know, and when you work without a safety net and when you're doing it live, I mean, inevitably, you don't want it to happen, but something's going to happen. You know it is. You just know that something's going to happen eventually. You hope it doesn't, you know, and unfortunately it did. But Steve's track record is pretty remarkable for all the things that he's driven in his lifetime that he hadn't run over anything else.
No doubt about it. I was really impressed that, as you said, he's driven everything, and this is the first time we've seen anything happen. I hope she's okay, and I hope the silliness continues. Guy W. Johns says, whether accidental contact made or freaked out, people act like they know what's in that lady's mind. Austin was kind and broke character twice to check on her, JBL. I see why you're quick to block people. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think it's fair that people are dunking on Austin. I mean, it all comes back to the intent. The dude clearly did not intend to do that. Who wants to do that? Like, that's totally.
Yeah, Steve got up there at Gorilla and he goes, you know what I want to do? I want to drive around the ring 3/4 away, then I want to hit a lady.
I mean, I imagine he's in the back watching a monitor in a Gorilla and says, hey, Bruce, you see that girl out there? I'm going to go knock the fuck out of her. Watch this. But that didn't happen, guys. That's a total accident. Damnation.
The last thing he wanted, the last possible thing he wanted to do. And, you know, but that's what happens. I mean, and unfortunately, when you have a live show like this, it's the appeal of what we do because you know that something can go wrong and you don't want it to, but invariably it's live TV. Things have always gone wrong and you don't want it to happen. You don't want anybody to get hurt. And you certainly don't want a fan to get hurt, but you know, it's unfortunately it's the nature of the beast.
We're live here with with JBL here, and we are doing double time to get to these questions. So if you've got some questions, hit them right now. Matt Fisher says, can I hire you to attend my wedding and do the dance you did to Teddy Long's theme? My fiance loves that. It's actually one of her favorite moments. Are you working weddings yet, John?
Not yet, but I think I probably will. I saw Teddy Long. He weighs 23 pounds now. Y'all, we're going to eventually just see 2 pair of sneakers on a cardio machine. That's what me and Ron believe. He's so into this freaking cardio. It's unbelievable. And he's got this wonderful dog now, Mr. Rufus, because me and Ron always called him Teddy Rufus Long. And he named his dog after what me and Ron used to call him, Mr. Rufus. He sends me videos all the time of his dog. It's a beautiful dog, by the way. But we're going to probably cup Teddy one day, just cup him right in the back of his peanut head. Bam!
I love that. Hey, let's talk about some media that WWE did on the way to WrestleMania this past week. We saw Shawn Michaels talking about the differences of becoming an old timer. He says that these days you hear people talk about, you know, oh, they don't slow down. Well, here's the exact quote. Old timers like me often talk about these kids don't sell anything like we did. But at the same time, I remember people saying that to me. This is generational. I think you have to change with the times. Football, basketball, baseball, they all need to be faster than they once were to keep an audience entertained and locked in. Our business is no different. What do you make of that quote there, John?
100% agree. You know, people said that about Harley Race when he came in, and he was just one of these kids that flipped and flopped. They literally said that about Harley Race. And one of the toughest guys in the history of this business said that about Jim Londo, said it about Gus Sonnenberg. They said it about so many guys that came through. And they're going to ruin the business because all they want to do is just fly around and nobody buys it anyway. And the business has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. It occurred to me watching WrestleMania that, you know, fans want something different now. I think they still like the old work style. And you see that with Roman Reigns and CM Punk. I mean, they're the main event. They're drawing huge crowds, but they want to see that fast action. And I think that's where agents have come in to be. And I think that's why some of these matches are so absolutely fantastic. And I'm not being sarcastic when I say that. They're incredible. They put this stuff together and they have these agents. They have the camera angles right. They have drone shots. I mean, it's just it's a different world. And because of what they have with the machine that's put around this talent, you have these incredible matches. Now, is it something that I would want to do. I don't think I could do it. I'm not athletic enough to do it, but my style was different, and was it something that I like better than our old style? Of course not. I like what we did, but that's because I did it. And they're drawing huge crowds now, and people are very entertained. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm not one of these old guys who say, "Oh, they shouldn't be doing that shit." Let me tell you something. What they're getting paid, I should have done all that shit.
By the way, since we've been recording, it's come out that Jeremy Borash, who's a longtime personal friends of Dorian and his family, the Roldons, he's going to be involved in the creative side on behalf of WWE. I thought that was interesting. I mean, Jeremy Borash has been one of the unsung heroes for a long, long time for NXT. I guess you might even say he was one of Triple H's right-hand guys. And knowing that he already has an existing relationship with Dorian, that feels like a no-brainer to sort of bridge who's been helpful behind the scenes with NXT and with AAA. Borash is the right guy, is he not?
I think he is, yes. And it's going to be a good integration. That integration is going to be tough, because I've wrestled down in Mexico for, since the early 90s, and it's a different style, and they want that different style. They want what they have grown up with. They want some of the stuff coming from America, but America wants some of the stuff coming from Japan too. But that doesn't mean that we want that just a Japanese style. They want some of the integration of America, but it's an integration that's going to have to go to their culture and heritage. I think Jeremy will do a great job, but it's a very tricky thing to go down there and run creative and stay true to what the Mexican people want. And they want the lucha style.
We got to talk a little bit about the other news that was getting everybody hot and bothered last week. Triple H was on Andrew Schultz's podcast and had a quote that got everybody hot and bothered. The internet is not real life, and the bitching and fucking complaining that is on there is not real life. You can read the internet and it'll sound like this thing is dead. And I'll use Cody as the example. Cody's already jumped the shark. Cody is dead as a babyface. Really? Because I don't know. I'm in an arena with 10,000, 15,000 people going apeshit for him. He's selling the most merchandise. Whatever you want to say on the internet is the golden rule. So the beautiful thing in our business is, unlike a movie or a TV show or even a book or anything else, we have a focus group every single night. And we would also see on the way to this show over the weekend, John, that Triple H basically said, stop being a fucking critic and just be a fan. And some fans were offended by this. What did you think?
Oh, I completely agree. And, we had when social media first came out, we had a social media part of our program, creative. It wasn't a creative, it was more production meeting. But creative was involved in the production meeting that we do on Mondays and Tuesdays. Because it was different then, because Vince would rewrite the show again on Mondays and Tuesdays. So we go over creative, and I remember they're sitting there and they've got the social media, and they said, "Oh, when this person comes out." I won't say who it is. Well, I will. It was Neville. When Neville came out, the social media jumped. And I said, well, okay, what are we talking about? They said, well, it doubles. And I said, well, how much is double? And it was like 7,000 to 15,000 mentions is what it was at the time, something like that, which is, that's your barometer at the time. That's huge. He was getting double what everybody else was getting when he came out, because he could do all these magnificent things. And I said, well, now, wait a minute. Is that 15,000 people that are doing mentions, or is that 3,000 people that are mentioning it 5 times? And I said, and also, if our North American audience is 2 or 3 million people, does this extrapolate from 15,000 into some type of algebraic equation that makes it 700,000? Or could it literally be just 15,000 people out of 3 million? And they said, well, we don't know that. I said, so we're basing our creative not upon the fact that he gets incredible crowd reaction, which Neville did. He got all of that. He got every single bit of it. But we're basing it upon the social media that we don't know if it's really 15,000 people or if that equates to 2 million. And they said, yeah. And then the writer of that event said, we don't need social media that much anymore. At least in the meeting, because you don't know what it goes to. You don't know if 15,000 mentions equates to 2 million people, or if 15,000 mentions equates to 15,000 people. and 99% are not represented. Now, that 99% may completely agree with that 15,000 people, but you don't know that. And so people that want to book off of social media, I think that's the tail wagging the dog.
Let's talk a little bit about another interview that we saw on the way to WrestleMania. Roman Reigns was interviewed by Vanity Fair, and they talked about a lot of things that I didn't expect for them to talk about, including his stance on the president. That's not for us to discuss. Who cares? I don't care what people's politics are. Entertain me, by God. But he says that his contract is up at the end of May next year. And after that, he's got a year or two max. After I finish the contract that I'm in, we probably got another year or two max. Then it's time to take on a less physical form of entertainment. I don't think a lot of people necessarily predicted that they only had a couple years left with Roman Reigns. Were you surprised by this?
No, I wasn't surprised he said it, and he may very well mean it. But, when that money comes back around and they say, well, we're going to, it's hard to leave this when you're on top, because, there's a finite window of how long you can be before you come back. And so I've talked with a lot of guys that, asked my advice on should I stay or should I not. It's easier to stay than it is to go and come back, because sometimes you can't. And I don't know what Roman's situation is. He's made a lot of money, and I'm sure he's taken good care of it, and I'm sure he's set, and he may do that. But the guys that I've advised always stay longer than you think, because once it's gone, it's hard to you feel like I'm not going to miss it. I'll get something else. It's hard to get something else that is as lucrative and also as fulfilling as what we do.
Yeah, absolutely no shade or disrespect. He's one of my all-time favorites. I assumed when Austin left wrestling full-time, he was going to be a Hollywood movie star.
I did too.
One of the biggest bona fide stars in the history of the business. I thought, dude, he's the next Stallone. He's the next Arnold. He's going to make Bruce Willis look like, I just assumed. I just knew he's such a star, but it didn't happen.
When he did that one movie where not the Expendables, the one he did before, where he was like they were hunting him as a part of like a video game.
Yes,
I thought he was fantastic. My wife and I both. My wife had flown back from Europe, and we went to the premiere or whatever it was, where they screened it. I remember saying afterward, dude, you're the next star. Yes. You are the next star. And I thought he did that good a job. Steve is such a talented guy. I don't know why Steve wasn't the next Stallone or Schwarzenegger. I thought he should have been.
I totally agree. I think the name of the movie you're talking about is The Condemned. Is that it?
I think that's it. Yes. He did a great job at it. Steve did a great job. He's a great actor.
Let's touch on one more piece of business, and then we're going to put a button on this one. John Cena did an interview on the lead up to WrestleMania weekend, and he was asked his thoughts about Vince. And I was kind of surprised how strong he came out. He was basically saying, I don't care who hears it. I love Vince. I'm not downplaying anything that needs to be decided or allegations of any kind. But when I love somebody, I love them wholeheartedly. I know people are going to be angry about that, but they can't put their value on my relationship with somebody I love. I don't think he could have had a better answer. Yep. But I know that there's a lot of fans out there who think if you say anything at all complimentary about Vince McMahon right now, it's just sacrilegious. What'd you think of John Cena's quote? I thought he did a fair job with that answer.
I thought he did a great job. I thought it was well thought out, and I thought he did a fantastic job. Randy Orton said something similar about 6 months ago, I think it was, and I thought he did a fantastic job. Look, I love Vince, and I have no idea what happened or didn't happen. I'm not saying, anything did or did. I had no idea. None. I didn't know any of that stuff that either happened or didn't happen. And I'm not saying whether it did or didn't. I'm just telling my relationship with him. And I thought John did a great job in characterizing his relationship. I think a lot of us feel that way.
Something I was surprised about over the weekend, and I guess it cemented that, boy, Vince is really gone. Triple H announced that there is a new television show that's going to be making its debut. It's called WWE Unreal, and it's marketed as, for the first time ever, step into the WWE writer's room and outside the ring with your favorite WWE superstars, where the drama is just as intense off stage as it is under the spotlight. I kind of think this is long overdue. If this was on traditional television, this might actually draw more ratings than the actual product they put on. I mean, there's entire industries that exist based around this. Why wouldn't WWE monetize it, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think, that Vince came from an era where it was different. I came from the era just after Vince, and it was pretty much the same. You protected the business at all costs. And so when you have that mindset, it's hard to open up to what they're doing now. But you look at it and realize these guys are drawing incredible houses. They're making more money than we ever dreamed of. I mean, they're doing something right. I saw the thing that Hunter mentioned about, the old podcasters, that talked about all the stuff they did back in the day, and now they're mad because people aren't kayfabing. I get what he's saying. It's uncomfortable when you're the old guy and, you grew up with such a mindset of protecting the business. But what they're doing now is just fantastic. And I guess that's what people love. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't want that. And I'll say not just for the business. I don't want that for anything I watch. So I don't want to know how you have make an elephant disappear with Siegfried and Roy. I don't want to know what Game of Thrones is going to happen. I don't want to know any of it. I'm not one of those guys that wants to know the background stuff. So I'm a little bit different in that way because that's not how I watch stuff. How I watch stuff, I want to be surprised. I want to have a crazy turn. When I watch wrestling, I want to be surprised. So I'm a little different in that way. And, to me, they're doing something right. And I don't disagree with any of it. It's strange to me that this is how the business has become. It's so open. But it's also strange to me that you have 2 straight arenas sold out, stadiums sold out back to back. So something's working.
Well, something's working with WWE, good, bad, or indifferent. Everybody's talking about it, and people are pumped for tonight's Monday Night Raw. Any final predictions? I mean, there's rumor and innuendo that there's a former talent who's returned, who's backstage. Maybe there's a talent from NXT who's backstage tonight. Maybe we see a couple of different debuts. What do you think people will be talking about tomorrow, and why is the Monday after WrestleMania so damn fun?
I think because the show's over. And I say the show's over. You're starting, a new year, and we've always started a new year when WrestleMania is over. So I think there's that idea of, okay, here we go for another run. But also it's like, hey, okay, all that stuff happened because you build up to that for a long time. Some of the stuff you're building up from a year, some you're building up to a couple months, some a few weeks ago, but you build up the build-up's done. Now you want to have fun and see what's coming next. And so I think you're going to see a lot of debuts, a lot. I hope you see a lot. I think you're going to see some incredible stuff with Cena. I thought what they did last night was when you leave people that want more or want something different, that can turn out very well. It can also turn out bad, but I think it can turn out very well. I think with the talent you have, you're going to see a different switch, something happening here. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And plus, you got just the guys who come over here, the Europeans that come over especially. They just want to have fun. And so they're going to go tonight. They're going to have all kinds of crazy chants. They're going to do all kinds of stuff. They're going to try to hijack the show. That's a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. It's the Monday after WrestleMania. We're all waiting with bated breath to see what they do tonight. We're going to wrap it up and let you guys go enjoy the show. But next week, we will be back to our regularly scheduled programming. Of course, our most recent 2 episodes were all about WrestleMania, but we're leaning back into nostalgia next week when we finally, thankfully, tell John stories about working with the man called Vader. That's coming your way next week here on the program. Go hit the subscribe button right now at somethingtowrestle.com. Be sure to turn on your notifications bell too, so the next time we're live like we were today, you'll be able to jump on and ask John a question. By the way, if you just can't get enough John, did you know he has another podcast? Yeah, just subbing for Bruce wasn't the original plan. He's been doing stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw for years. There's hundreds of episodes in the archives, and you can find them anywhere you enjoy podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Any final words today, John, before we put a button on this episode?
No, it was so fun being out there at WrestleMania. It's so fun to be a part, but it's so fun to watch from the outside and just be a fan. it's so cool. You realize why you love this business. And we had Ted City on our podcast last week. Was first guy to bench press 700 pounds. We also had some matches with Big John Studd and stuff. I have a lot of fun with Mr. Briscoe, just talking with old guys and talking about the history of the business, because it's so fun. This business there's nothing like it. I think it's the greatest business in the world. And that's why I enjoy it and having so much fun talking about it.
Stay tuned, boys and girls. We're going to have a lot of fun next week right here on Something to Wrestle with John Layfield.